us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss and whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. You can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. God is concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is Earth's finest water. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, pardon me, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution page on our website at newlifeministriesinternational.com. We thank you for your support and your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted. So, pardon me, I'm having problems with my allergies today, and of course when you're live, all of those things are heard, but I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, we are in the process, as you know, of expanding our platforms once again. So as you can see, when we first came live, I'm actually trying to make certain that we're where we need to be with our technology, but we are in the process of expanding our platform once again on RadioFreeNetwork.com, and with that we have some additional platforms that are going to be added. So I'm going to be keeping you informed about that. I'm going to make certain that you're aware of all of the platform opportunities that we have available to us, and we want you to continue encouraging your family, friends, coworkers, and colleagues to tune in every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So wherever you are across the U.S. and wherever you are around the globe, set a reminder so that you can be with us every single day. We've had such an increase in viewership as we've expanded our platforms, but we want to make certain that no one misses the opportunity to hear from God. Whatever you want to discuss, whatever issues you find challenging, issues of life that you find challenging or difficult to navigate, we will address them right here. As God speaks to me, I'll speak to you on subsequent broadcasts and respond to all of your communications right here in 3D. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your sister is always negative about everything. However, she's your only sibling, and yet there are moments that you really can't tolerate being around her negativity, and you want to know, how do you handle negativity when someone's constantly being negative? So let me first of all say this: you don't get to choose your family. You do get to choose your friends. And one of the things that God showed me in that secret place of your life is it's not just your sister. You have friends who are negative also, and they'll one of them justifies it by saying that they're a realist and they're never, they're looking at the circumstances of life just the way they are, and all of that can be said, but none of that is real. Here's the reality: people who are constantly negative or who are pessimists, the problem is not life. The problem is their view of life, their perception. The problem is their lack of faith The problem is that they only see the circumstances before them. And what I want to make certain that you know and everyone knows is that your circumstances are only the present. They're not your future. Everything that you deal with today or that you go through today is what you're living in the present. We have to have a greater expectation for the future. So we have to have a greater expectation for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And then we have to have a different perspective about next week, that we expect next week to be greater than this week. We have to have a greater expectation for this coming month. We have to have a greater expectation for the coming year. We're living in the present. We are in the month of May. We're living in the month of May. The month of June is going to look different than the month of May. And we have to believe that it's going to be better than this month. Now, that's not to imply that this hasn't been a good month. We are expecting, we have a greater expectation for what's going to occur in next month and the coming months and the remainder of this year and what is to come in the coming year. So people may think you look at life through rose-colored glasses, but the reality is you are just looking at the glass of life as being half full. You're not focused on the empty portion. You're not focused on the negative things. And in your case, part of the problem is you mentioned that your sister's negative, and she is a pessimist. She is a pessimist. I don't know your sister, but God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. So you're right, but that's not the only problem. It's all of the negativity around you. And so you ask how to deal with negative people. Stop spending all of your time with negative people. I understand that's your sister, but if that's going to be her way of life, that doesn't have to be your way of life. And one of the things that I constantly remind people is that when people have a pessimistic view about life and the future, what it holds, when we know who holds the future, someone so much greater than ourselves, God, the creator of the universe, I have to say, you lack faith. When you tell me someone spends their whole life being negative, every day there's just negativity surrounding them, their whole thought process is about negativity, it's due to a lack of faith. The only reason that we can go through life being negative and being pessimistic about everything instead of optimistic about everything is because the optics are what they're focused on. They're not focused on beyond the optics. They're not focused on having the faith to believe that, first of all, everything's going to be all right, but then that's not enough. We have to increase our faith to believe beyond enough. We have to believe that God is doing something so much greater in the spiritual realm that we cannot see in the physical realm until it is manifested. And it will not be manifested until we prepare ourselves for the manifestation. So we have to think outside of our head, and we have to say, okay, I know what the circumstance says. Faith doesn't ignore fact. Faith overcomes fact. So we don't look at the circumstances of life and say they don't exist. We know that's the present. We look at the circumstances of life and say, I know tomorrow's going to be better. I know that in Him I live, in God I live and move and have my being. You know, we got stuck on what it says on the back of our currency, which is, in God we trust. And that is the foundation of everything. But not only do I trust in him, but I believe that he has an expected end for each and every one of us that's much greater than our circumstances today. You might not like what's going on around you today, but that doesn't imply that we have to stay in it, because tomorrow's going to come, and tomorrow's going to be a new day filled with new opportunity, new potential. So we have to explore that. So I say to you this: you love your sister, but if she's going to always be negative, you have to pick and choose the moments that you're going to be with her. The time that you're going to spend with her. What happens is that people who are constantly negative, the reason you struggle, and you have that with your sister and you have that with two of your friends, it's beyond me when you don't desire to live with negativity, but you're comfortable with the people that are around you, so you're not changing your environment. You have to recognize how important it is to say, I'm just not going to dwell around that negativity. I'm not going to make that part of my everyday life. I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I don't want you to misinterpret this. I'm not talking about YOLO, you only live once and let's get it in, let's turn it up. No, I'm talking about I refuse to live with negativity surrounding me. I'm going to place myself in a more positive environment, which is going to create for me a more positive state of mind. And what that means is pick and choose the time you're going to spend with them. You know, you love them, but pick and choose the time that you are going to spend with them, because people who are constantly negative put off negative energy, and negativity sucks all of the energy out of the room. It's positivity and optimism that allows us to see outside of the room. Meaning, I know what I'm dealing with. I know what the circumstances are. I know what I need to do to overcome the circumstances. I'm going to put the energy in to overcome the circumstances, because I know that tomorrow's going to be a better day. I know next week is going to be a better week. I know next month is going to be a better month. Now you might say to me, well, Pastor, what happens if? Well, what if? Well, if we focus on the what ifs, we begin to suppress our success. We can't focus on the what if. You know, you can look around you. You know, we talk about this all the time. All you got to do is look around you, and you'll find someone who's having a more difficult situation than you're having right now. Everybody's got their own testimony. But the reality is that we don't have to look at our circumstances and live in our circumstances. We just have to be present in the circumstances. But we don't have to stay there. So I'm going to encourage you to put yourself in a position to be in a more positive environment. You know, you want people around you who are always looking for the brighter day, for a better day, who are always working to achieve a better day. You know, you have to determine exactly how much time you're going to spend with your sister. You have to determine how much time you're going to spend with those two friends who are negative people. And what's really interesting is God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. You have one friend who is more positive, who is a positive person, upbeat person, They're not crazy. They're not off the charts. They're not, I need all the attention. They're just going about life doing what needs to be done to be the best version of themselves that they can become. You have that friend, but you choose to spend less time with that friend than you do with the other two and your sibling. You gotta recognize how important it is to decide where you're going to spend your time. Because if you continue doing what you've been doing, that negative energy is always going to surround you. And even though you're trying to be positive, and even though you're trying to be optimistic, it's going to begin causing you to take on that same mindset. Fortunately enough, the reason you sent in this communication is because you recognize what needs to be addressed, and now you can begin to address it. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, nor have you been for the previous 90 days, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will place you into our queue so that you can become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your professional life has been successful. However, your personal life has been a bit of a disaster. You want to know, how can you maximize both? Okay. You went through a divorce. You didn't say that in your communication, but God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. You went through a divorce. However, that's not the end. I recognize that, you going through the divorce was traumatic for you. I get it. That was a trauma that you didn't expect. And you have children who are dealing with the fallout of that. I get it. That is a traumatic experience, particularly when you have children who are also going to be traumatized by the divorce. Okay. However, you have to recognize that this is just the present. As I just said to the previous communication, it's not the end. It's not the future. So what you're going to need to do is to take the same methodology that you apply to your professional life and transfer that to your personal life. Now, let me tell you what that looks like, and let me tell you what that implies. So you've been very successful in your professional life because you have the right personality for business. You have the right temperament for business. And of course, you're competent. But that's a big deal. Everyone doesn't have the same temperament. Everyone doesn't have the same personality. And business is a different environment than being in a creative environment or being in a academia environment. There's a lot of sectors that, or in a labor environment, you have the right personality, the right mentality for business. And part of the issue that we often find is that we don't run our homes like a corporation, marriage is, and I'm sure I'm gonna get some emails about this, but it's okay because I'm using an analogy. Marriage is a business also. It is a contractual agreement. It is, we understand that it is holy matrimony, but it is also a contractual agreement. And we have to look at it from a business perspective. We run our homes like a corporation. We have a C-suite. We have management. There's the necessity to run our homes like a corporation. So now what you have a spinoff of a corporation. The divorce is a spinoff. It's like being a company that has more than one brand, and one has now been sold off because you've gone through a divorce. You still have the other brand that's a spinoff. That's you and your children. And now you have to operate your personal life as you would a business. You no longer have a co-CEO. You have become the CEO. You no longer have a CFO. You become the CFO. And you no longer have no longer have a co-CFO. You become the CFO. You no longer have a co-COO. And the reason is because unless you know what position everyone was playing in the corporation, what position everyone held in the corporation, you really are trying to restructure your corporation. So you've now become the entire C-suite. You're going to have to make your children directors. In other words, they're going to be responsible for being part of the operations of the household. But you're going to have to cast a new vision. What's a new vision look like for your household? How are you going to implement the vision? Let me rephrase that. What's going to be the strategic plan moving forward, and how are you going to implement that strategic plan? So there's a lot of changes that have to be made. You're capable and competent to make those changes. Just look at your personal life now and use the same methodology that you use to be successful in your professional life, meaning putting in whatever necessary hours you need to put in to your home life to get things back on course. Managing your children. When there was two of you, well, before COVID and after COVID, there's no longer going to be two of you dropping off and picking up. You're going to have to fine tune that. Now, you're going to have to reorganize, restructure. So you have one child who is capable of driving. So you're and I don't mean a new driver. They won't be going off to college until the fall. So they can help out dropping off, picking up when they're not working. You're just going to have to reorganize. You're going to have to restructure. And you can do this because what you don't want to focus on right now, and this is the hard part for everyone when they go through a divorce, because we immediately feel like we need to get back out there. and try to, I'm a firm believer if you get thrown off a horse to get back on and ride again. But before you get back on and ride, you better get to know that horse. You better get to know why you got thrown. Before you even consider dating again, reorganize, restructure, get your life back on course, apply the same methodology that you use in your professional life, and you will prosper and have good success. Things will get back to normal. You will, I understand you went through the divorce before COVID. You're trying to deal with all of those emotions also. I get it. This isn't normal for any of us. But you can get back to a place where you feel normal once again. This is not the end. And truth be told, you're going to have to decide that you're under new management. This is new for you to move forward now. This is your opportunity to restructure the life that you want for you and your children. And whatever role your ex-husband is going to play in that, you'll all figure that out once we get through the rest of this pandemic. But this is not the end. And you are going to have to look at it as the beginning. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, check for their store hours, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need. They have home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you are not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK, they also have stores on Fifth Avenue in New York and at the Short Hills Mall in Short Hills, New Jersey. So if you're in either of those areas, check for the store hours, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you're not in either of those areas, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you want to be a different person. So you've been in therapy for a period of time, and during COVID you've been doing virtual therapy, and all of that's good. You want an overhaul of your personality. However, you said in your communication, you've been you for so long that you do not know how to make the change. And one of the things that you have to recognize is that, as your therapist has been telling you, change can be good. We don't want to shy away from change. I'm not one that says to disrupt for the sake of disruption, but I am one who supports change. Change is progress. You want to become the best version of yourself that you could possibly become. And the fact that you've been seeing someone and receiving therapy professionally is a good thing because of the trauma from the past. So that's a good thing. But now you have to also implement some of the recommendations that the therapist has been making. And you have to make a decision that you're going to work on those things. Change requires work. You're gonna have to work on those things. You have to decide and say to yourself that you want to become the best version of yourself, not just a different version, but the best version of yourself, because otherwise it will take continued behavioral modification. We want you to experience the best quality of life that you could possibly experience. So I'm going to encourage you to do the work that's been recommended. Your therapist has been giving you good recommendations. Do the work. Do the necessary work. Do the homework. Do the necessary work